Honey, if you have not watched this story on TikTok, I don't know what you've been watching. But anyway, just in case you ain't got TikTok, here is the story. I got the full story. Make sure you watch the whole entire story. It is unbelievable. Okay. Now I'm gonna have to do different parts. Now this is gonna be part one. I probably have to have like 2, 3 parts because the story is so long. But you got to go check it out for yourself, or you can listen to it right here. All right. Disclaimer: this ain't my story, but it was so interesting. I had to share it with y'all.
Ex-husband around March 4th of 2020. We met on Facebook dating site, and we also matched on Hinge. I did not realize that he was on both under 2 different names. So one was his actual name, and the other one was a variation, like a nickname that he called himself. Different pictures. So it was a running joke between us. Oh, you ain't even recognized that you had matched with me on Hinge. No, I didn't. And also that should have been a red flag. By the way, you will notice in this story, I called it the United Nations of red flags. It is so many red flags that, I mean, you would have thought I was colorblind because I ignored all of them. So anyway, back to the story. We met around March 4th. We exchanged phone numbers. He called me and we talked on the phone for the first time. In the first phone call, he told me that he had just moved to Georgia from California, from San Diego. His job had transferred him because he was being transferred in as the new regional manager for a major condiment company that is based here in Georgia. I'm not going to say the name. And so we also talked about his childhood. He told me he grew up in Philly. He's from Philly. Both of his parents were deceased. This is the first phone call. Both of his parents were deceased. His father was a Philadelphia police officer. His mom was a teacher. He also told me he briefly lived in Augusta with his family. He had 2 brothers and 2 sisters. He also had 2 half-brothers on his dad's side. First phone call. So I'm just giving you guys the backstory. This was the first phone call we had. So we talked about family. We talked about friends. We talked about our jobs. At the time, I was working at Georgia State Patrol. And he knew this, and he just thought that was like, wow, so you work with troopers all day. Yes, I did. Also in that phone call, he explained to me that he used to play football. He explained that he used to play arena football. I know nothing about arena football. I know about NFL. I know about college. Go Dogs. But I don't know anything about arena football. So he explained to me that he used to play arena football. He used to work at Apple in the off season of arena football. And I remember thinking on that phone call, oh, okay, good for you. I don't know anything about arena football. And I believe I did tell him that. I don't know anything about arena football. That'll come into play later on. So he told me, I just moved here. My job is paying for my housing and they're helping me to look for a house. He was like, right now I'm in Gwinnett County, but I'm trying to look for a house. Ideally in Atlanta, like Brookhaven, Sandy Springs. He was like, I really would like to move out there. And so I thought, that's great. You're looking to get a house. You just moved here. He was like, I don't really know too many people here because I spend all my time at work and, this job is really demanding. So that was our first phone call. We talked more. He talked a lot, which took me by surprise because I'm not really used to men talking more than me. He eventually asked me out on a date. Our first date was set for Saturday, March 7th, 2020. He asked me what was my favorite restaurant. I said Cheesecake Factory. And so we agreed to go out at the Cheesecake Factory in a location that was in between. I lived in Clayton County at the time. He lived in Gwinnett County. I realized that if you don't know anything about Metro Atlanta, that makes no sense. But basically, we lived about 45 minutes apart. So we agreed to meet at the Cheesecake Factory over at Perimeter Mall, which is in an area, Sandy Springs, Dunwoody area. I was excited. Like, I called my friends and was like, I got a date, you know, blah, blah, blah. We'll see how it goes. First conversation was good. Hopefully he looks like his pictures, because, you know, that's always an issue with online dating. Hopefully he looks like his pictures. So on my way to our date, I took 285, and literally right before I got to Boulder Crest, the exit for Boulder Crest, I heard a boom and I lost control of my car. Thank God that not thank God, but I knew what to do. So I did not crash, but my tire blew out. So I called him and I said, hey, I am so sorry, but my tire just blew on 285. I'm slowly making my way off the exit. I believe I pulled into a Chevron gas station, and I said, you know, I got to get this fixed. I don't know what to do. Like, I'm a damsel in distress kind of thing. He kind of paused. He got quiet, and he was like, you know, tell me exactly where you are. Drop your pin. So I dropped the pin, and he came to the gas station. Got out the car, and I was so relieved that he actually looked like his pictures, that I was like, oh my God, he's actually attractive, because he's like 6'4", 6'5". Oh, also, man, I apologize. So let me go back to the first conversation. Let me add something. He did tell me in the first phone call that he was divorced, and that his ex-wife, she had 2 children, a boy and a girl, who were teenagers, young adults. I think the girl was about 20, and he said that he had a very close relationship with his stepkids, but that he and his ex-wife had divorced because she cheated on him out in California. And so coming to Georgia was a new beginning for him. She was still out in California. The kids were still out in California. And so, you know, he was like, I can't stand her, but I still want to be in the kids' lives. I have to put that in there because that will come back later. So this is just setting the stage. Again, that first conversation we talked about family, job, friends, how he ended up in Georgia, me being in Georgia, the things that, you know, I would think people talk about in the first conversation. All right, now back to the tire blew out. So he shows up to the gas station. He changes my tire, which I just thought was the sexiest thing in the world. And then he proceeds to say, hey, I found a tire place around the corner. You need to get another tire. Like, you can't drive on this donut. So he followed me to the tire place, and then helped me get a tire, paid for it. So I was definitely like, wow. And so the vibe was good. So anyway, I get the tire fixed. We follow each other to the Cheesecake Factory over in Perimeter. We hold hands walking into the Cheesecake Factory. So in my mind, I'm like, this. Oh my God, I had butterflies. That's the look of a woman who had butterflies. So I had butterflies. And we go in, there's a long wait. And so we sit outside and we just talk. And the conversation's great. And this is where he tells me what it is he's looking for. He tells me, you know, I believe at the time he was 42. He was like, I want to get married and it be for real. He's like, my parents were married 40 plus years before my mom passed away. And I want that. I want marriage, family, a house. Like, that is what I want. He was like, I'm as a man, I'm ready to get married, but I want it to be for real, because the first time, you know, it really hurt me when she cheated on me. So he's telling me everything that I wanted to hear. And so he was like, what is it that you want? And I said pretty much the same thing. I was like, I'm ready to get married, definitely want to have a family, and I want to marry my best friend. So we both put on the table that we wanted marriage. And this is the end of part one. We were dating for marriage. We were not dating just to date. We were not trying to be friends with benefits and none of that. So the dinner at Cheesecake Factory went really well. We laughed, we joked, we talked about people, which is kind of up my alley, my sense of humor. It was a good vibe. So at the end of the date, at the end of dinner, we sat in his car and he played this song for me by John Legend. I don't know the name of the song. By the time this video posts, I will put the name at the bottom. I can't remember the song. I just remember that John Legend was talking about, I think I met my wife tonight. And I thought it was a sign. So I was like, oh my God. So anyway, we ended up sitting in the car talking just about life and experiences until about midnight. So during this conversation, he again is telling me how it was, what it was like living in California, how he went out there, he went to San Diego State, he played football for San Diego State. He talked about how, he loved it out there, so he stayed. That's when he joined the company. And then he explained that he also did arena football, but only did it for about 2 or 3 years. He claims that while he was doing arena football, the team that he was on won a championship. But again, keep in mind, I don't know anything about arena football. So I was like, okay, I didn't know that they had championships. And he was like, he got a little offended, like, yeah, they got championships. And, he was on that team. So he talked to me about how he worked at Apple. He worked something in the IT area of Apple, but within the store. Again, it was one of those, it's like when I tell people I used to work at Amazon. I really wasn't paying much attention to it. Why? So we talked about all that. We talked deeply into what happened with the ex-wife. It's because I asked. He was not volunteering all this information. So in other words, I get very uncomfortable when men start talking about their ex a lot. That's not what happened. I was asking questions because I was really trying to figure out, okay, are you ready for a relationship, or are you still missing her? So we talked about that. We talked about my exes. That was a mistake I made because I talked about how I dated at one point in time somebody I worked with. That will come back later. And he seemed real cool about it. He was like, that was before me and blah, blah, blah. So the conversation was good. Midnight comes and I go home. Yes, I went home. We ended up talking. Mind you, our first date was March 7th. And within about 2.5 weeks, Brian Kemp, our governor, shut Georgia down. We were going to be on lockdown. So during those 2.5 weeks, we talked every day. We went out again at Red Lobster. I remember Red Lobster. But everything was going great. The issue was, where are we going to quarantine? So the question was, are we going to quarantine at his place, which he had like a studio type of situation. Like, it clearly, where he was staying, I was like, it's like a studio apartment, but he kept telling me like, this is temporary because I'm looking for a house. Like, he showed me the email from a woman who worked at the company where she was out on maternity leave, but she was putting him in contact with a realtor to help him find a townhome or a single family house. So I was just like, okay, this is definitely temporary. Like, he's not trying to stay here long term. and she was apologizing in the email. I'm so sorry, you know, this should have been taken care of before you got here, but it wasn't. Da 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 da. I saw the email. I read it. I read the email. So the decision was, we're going to quarantine at the studio, or we're going to quarantine in my house? First mistake I made. Well, there's a lot, but this was a mistake I made. So ladies, caution moment. During one of our dates, because keep in mind, in those 2 weeks, we were seeing each other quite a bit. Nothing physical or anything like that. Just two people who I thought were really on some, all right, let's see if this is going to grow into something. He came to my house. When he came to my house, I had a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath townhome. He was in a studio. Now, I'm telling you guys all of this in order of how it happened. So some things I'm probably going to insert what I was thinking and the mistake I made. Can I turn this off? No. Okay, I still need that. And I say that to say that I did not realize inviting him to my home probably made his eyes go, oh shit, she's a keeper. She got this 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath townhouse, and I'm in like a little studio. Yeah, let me go ahead and pursue this. What I need to do to quarantine here. The decision was made, quarantine at my house. So the state went on lockdown. He came and stayed with me in my home, and for the most part, in the initial beginning, it was fine. It was fine. The reason why I hesitate is because I grew up in the church. So for me, it was really like an internal struggle of, bruh, you always said you would never live with a guy unless he was your husband. And now you living with a dude and he ain't your husband. Like, it was a struggle for me because I knew better. And don't come for me. I'm just telling you the way I grew up. It was like that. It was not sitting right with me. But at the same time, I didn't want to quarantine by myself. I did not want to. So there we go. So he moved in. We talked about the bills. Let me clear something up that I said in the other video where I said he paid all the bills. He paid all the household bills. He did not pay my car payment, my cell phone, or my car insurance. He paid the rent, because my rent at the time was less than $1,000. He paid the utility bills. And so when he's telling me that he's a regional manager, I was like, wow, okay, so you got money. And so he paid all the household bills. So my check really was just taking care of me, myself, and I. And I am not, this is where it's not going to make me look good, but it's the truth. It was intoxicating to not have to worry financially about how to pay the bills. It was a wonderful feeling. And so I kind of pushed to the side the fact that, yeah, you shacking up, because it's like, but your page, you don't have to worry right now. Like, he's taking care of all of April's bills before April even comes, because this was still March. So we're living together, and I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, he's helping to cook and clean, and then we have a conversation about house. Is he still going to buy a house just for him, or is he going to buy a house where it's for us? Because we are going to try to make this thing work, be official, get married, have a family. So the question now on the table is, what are we going to do? Because I didn't want to stay in Riverdale, Georgia. I did not want to raise a family there. I refused to have a baby in Clayton County. So the decision was made, let's start looking for a house for both of us. Remember, he was already looking for a house for him. But then he was like, you know what? We're together. I plan to marry you. Let's look for a family home for the two of us. He was like, this is how much I was approved for. That's when he showed me the Chase paperwork. It was a letter stating that and it had the Chase, a letter from Chase with the Chase logo at the top, stating that he had been approved for a mortgage for a $750,000 mortgage, or a $750,000 house. So he was like, we can't go over 750. And I said, I remember asking him, can you afford the mortgage on a $750,000 house? Because I know I can't. This is when he explains to me, I told you how I played arena football. I invested my money really well. So he said, I have money that will help pay for the mortgage. He was like, we're good. Like, I'm financially, I am okay. He was like, that's why I'm able to get approved for $750,000 mortgage. So he told me that his money was in different savings accounts. He said he had an account with Chase Bank, he had an account with US Bank, and he had an offshore account. This is what he told me. The offshore account, I was like, why? And he explained something about, the U.S. the U.S. imposes taxes on money when you have a certain amount in U.S. banks. He was like, so everybody knows that it's smart to have some money in an offshore account. Y'all, look, I live paycheck to paycheck. I was like, okay, that's whatever. I said, so you have the money to pay for a home. I'm also holding in my hand a letter from Chase saying that he was approved for $750,000. So I went off of what I saw. So we contacted a realtor. I won't say his name, but man, if he ever sees this TikTok, I owe this man such an apology. But we contacted a realtor who was based in Cobb County, because I was very adamant I wanted to move back to Marietta, Smyrna area in Cobb County, Georgia. He was fine with that. His whole attitude was, you're going to be my wife, happy life. So we met a realtor. I would find houses that I wanted to tour. Keep in mind that this was COVID. So at the time, we could not tour a home. It would have to be a virtual tour. So this particular realtor, we found a house in Douglasville, Georgia. Not Cobb County, but nevertheless, it's in Douglasville. I was fine with Douglasville. So we found a house in Douglasville, Georgia. The realtor did a FaceTime tour of the house. The house was really a nice home. 5 bedrooms, 4 baths. So we did a FaceTime tour of the home, and the home was listed, I believe, roughly 400 and something thousand. I really liked the house. I could see myself living there. I could see us living there. Could see us with the kid there. This is now April, just for timeline purposes. This is April. So he really liked the house. He was like, you know what, we'll put an offer in on the house. He was like, if you like it, because again, it was COVID, we weren't going to be able to see the house in person because the family still lived there. So he said, I'll put an offer in. We'll see if it's accepted. I said, okay. So he puts an offer in. He's telling me he put an offer in. I need to clarify some things he told me and the things that I actually saw. So for this house in Douglasville, he told me he was putting an offer in. The realtor would call me, because one thing that the realtor told us, he was like, if the woman likes the house, typically the house is going to get bought. So he kind of dealt with me a bit more than he did my ex-husband. And again, this is April 2020. This is before we got married. So at the time, he was my boyfriend. So the realtor was calling me and was like, hey, I put the offer in. And what they're asking for is proof of funds. And I did not know anything at this time about buying a house. So I was like, hey, you probably need to talk to him, because I'm not even listed on the mortgage. Like, from the paperwork I saw, it was only in his name. So he called him. I guess they talked. I was not there, but I'm assuming that they had talked. So the boyfriend is coming, my ex is coming home saying, yeah, I talked to so-and-so. I sent him over the paperwork. The offer was approved, and they are going to try to do a virtual closing. First, we got to do an inspection. If the inspection goes all well, then we have to do a virtual closing. He also told me that he put down earnest money on the home. He put down, I believe, $5,000. He said, I just transferred the money over to the realtor's account or whatever, so that it could be earnest money for the house. So I'm just like, okay, great. He was like, so realistically, this is April. We should be able to get in that house by June. Okay, no problem. So this is what he told me. About 3 or 4 days later, I get a phone call from the realtor, and the realtor is like, hey, I'm just checking to see what you guys want to do about that house. So I was confused. I'm at work, and I said, oh, I was told that he put an offer in. And the realtor was like, he did? I didn't know that he put an offer in. And I said, well, why wouldn't you know? Like, he told me he put the offer in, and he had paid earnest money, $5,000 earnest money. And so the realtor was like, well, let me call him and find out what's going on with that, because I didn't know anything about it. So red flag, of course. So I call him, and he, in true narcissistic nature, he flips the script, and he like goes off. He's like cussing, going off, like he shouldn't, excuse me, I have the hiccups. He shouldn't be calling you. If he has a question, he should call me, because I'm the one that's on a mortgage. He was like, and now it's going to be an issue. And I said, well, did you put the offer in with him or not? And he said, no, I did not put the offer in with him. I put the offer in with a friend of mine who is a realtor, so I can give him the business. So I did not hear from that realtor again. So I was just like, is the house under contract or is it not? He was like, yes, the house is under contract. This is how crazy things work out. About 3 days later, on realtor.com, I'm looking at the house because I was trying to figure out in my mind how I'm gonna decorate. It shows the house is under contract. So, showed my boyfriend. My boyfriend's like, I told you it was under contract. He was like, I like, did you not believe me? And I ain't had a heart to say, hell no, I didn't believe you. Like, it seemed too good to be true. But once I saw the house was under contract, I absolutely believe that, okay, it's under contract with him. Like, yeah, we're about to do inspection. We are about to move. And so we had driven by the house because, again, keep in mind, a family's still living there. So we had driven by the house. At this point, he was like, I want us to start looking for furniture so that way we can go ahead and order it. So when it's time to move, the furniture is ready, because, it takes like 6 to 8 weeks sometimes for furniture to be delivered if they don't have it in stock. Like, he was very methodical and planning and saying, this is what we need to do. So we started going to Home Depot, Lowe's, because we had a printout of what the sellers were going to take. They were going to take the appliances. He had a printout. Let me be clear. He had a printout. So it said on there that they were going to take the appliances. So we needed to get a new stove. new refrigerator, new microwave, all that stuff. So we went to Home Depot and Lowe's, and I went ham. I chose all these new appliances, and here's where we get into the shopping. Lowe's, I'm choosing all these appliances. He's taking pictures of the SKU number. We had representatives helping us, and he basically explained to them, hey, we're buying a house. We should be closing sometime in June. Can we order this stuff now? Can I put a hold on it? Like, what can we do? Because we're not ready for delivery. I stood there as the Home Depot rep said, we can hold it in our warehouse. Like, you can buy something and we can hold it. People do it all the time, especially with COVID. So I watched him pay. I want to say it was about it was either $350 or $500. I watched him pay a deposit on a whole new set of appliances for them, and they were going to hold it until we were ready for delivery. I watched this. So I was like, okay, good deal. Like, we got the appliances. Next, let's go to Rooms to Go and Ashley Furniture and find actual furniture. So we went all around Rooms to Go. We went to Ashley Furniture. We went to American Signature. And I saw all these things that I wanted. Again, he's taking pictures of it. He was like, I can go online and order it. I didn't think anything of it because, again, I just saw that we held the appliances. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So April turns into May. May 2020 comes. This is where things start to get a little interesting. May comes, and obviously we had not done inspection. And I'm asking him all the time, what's the deal with the house? He was like, oh, because of COVID, they're trying to get someone to do the inspection. But the guy that they had, it was always something. The guy they had caught COVID, so they're going to have to get somebody else. And he's like 15 houses backed up, so it'll be a while. So at this point in May, I know I look crazy. In this point in May of 2020, I started recording audio diaries. I don't know why. It was something just made me just start recording my thoughts in an audio diary, and I still have them. And I would save them by the date, and I would just start talking about what's on my mind. So I was like, I knew there was something was nagging me, like, but I kept pushing it out of my mind. I was like, you saw, this is what I reminded myself. You saw him pay for the appliances. You know the house is under contract. You know that he told you that he's the one who put the house under contract. Why would, like, I remember saying to myself, why would he lie about that? This is so easy to verify. Why would he lie about that? Have you caught him in any other lie? And at the time, the answer was no. So I really was like, maybe you just aren't used to a guy who actually does what he's supposed to do. Like, I was questioning myself and then answering my own questions. So inspection didn't happen. Around mid-May, I found out I was pregnant. May 2020. When I found out I was pregnant, he was ecstatic, and I was like, oh shit. The reason why I was oh shit is because, number one, I'm plus size. Number two, because of my age, I felt like it was probably going to be a high-risk pregnancy. And I wasn't married. And that nagged. I cannot tell y'all how much it nagged me. There was a lot of internal struggle in between. My family didn't even know that he had moved in at this point. I told them, that I was pregnant. Went to the doctor. Everything looked good. But again, because it was COVID, he couldn't go in with me into the actual room. So, doing any sort of ultrasound, doing the blood test, because my HCG levels were really high. So the doctor was like, hey, it might be twins. We don't know yet. You're still kind of early, along. They gave me a due date. The due date was January 26th of 2021. So yeah, May, found out I was pregnant. So there was now more of a push into, we got to get a house. We got to get the fuck up out of here. I'm not having a baby in Riverdale. Okay, nothing against Riverdale, but I ain't having a baby in Riverdale. So we need to find out what's going on with this house. And so he was on top of it. He had an answer for everything. He was like, I'm gonna call and find out what's going on, blah, blah, blah. He then magically told me about a week later, oh, they're going to do inspection on the house like in 2 days. So I was just like, okay, keep in mind, I'm taking his word for it. I'm taking his word for all this. So he's like, they're going to do an inspection. Once we get the inspection report back, then we will know what we're going to be responsible for. What are we getting ourselves into? So, I guess they did an inspection. He showed me an inspection report. Only thing that they said that the roof had just recently been replaced, which I remember he was very happy about. And the issues that there were for the house were minor. It was not a bad, because we did have a discussion about it. He was like, it's nothing that we can't handle. Then he said that we were set to close the end of May. We were set to close the end of May. He told me it was going to be a virtual closing. You're probably like, what the hell is a virtual closing? Because again, he's saying because of COVID, people are not closing in the office. They're doing a virtual closing where you would need to electronically sign the paperwork. This is what he's telling me. And so he was like, we're set to close like just before Memorial Day. And so for some reason, again, there's still that nagging part. For some reason, I didn't start packing. Anyone that knows me will tell you I hate moving. I've done it enough in my life. I hate moving. But I did not start packing up that house at all. I was just like, I'm pregnant. My body was changing so fast that it was like I can barely keep my eyes open half the day. And so, no, I didn't start packing. And I remember I did record, again, I was recording audio diaries just about every day. When something didn't sit right, I would verbally record it in the audio diary because I was like, I don't know what it is, but there's something. That was the theme of our relationship. I don't know what it is, but I know there's something. And so I remember talking to myself in my little prayer closet, because that's where I would do my recordings. And I remember thinking, what if we don't get this house? Like, what if he's lying? But again, there goes that thought process of, why would he lie about this? Like, who makes up that they're buying a house when in fact they're not? And then he's showing you all this paperwork. Like, come on, you can't be that jaded that you don't even believe what's in front of you. All right? So now we're going to go into part 5. So I'm questioning all this stuff in my head out loud on my audio diaries. And then once again, I'm like, but look at what he's giving you. Like, he's paying, it wasn't a question about money. it was just a question of, are we really about to move into this house? And keep in mind, he's paying all the household bills. He still is. So we were supposed to close before Memorial Day. We didn't. There was an excuse. There was always an excuse with him. Always an excuse. And I didn't know enough about the process to question stuff because I really wasn't involved the way I should have been. And it was giving me a lot of anxiety. So I'm pregnant with a lot of anxiety. And if I'm gonna be 100% honest with y'all, I was not expecting that I was probably going to have a healthy pregnancy because I was stressed. And what I was stressed about is I didn't know what was going on because I wasn't really involved the way that a normal relationship would be involved. Just being honest. So we did not close. We move now into June. This is now going into June. Around June 5th, I looked at the house again on Realtor.com. I don't know what made me do it other than, and I don't mean to sound super spiritual. I know that people are like, you may or may not believe in God, but I'm telling you, I believe with all my heart, probably the Holy Spirit was like, look at that house on Realtor.com. So I looked at the house on Realtor.com. This was around June 5th. It showed that the house was off the market. And I remember being like, okay, wait, what does that mean? What does that mean? Because ex-husband is telling me we're about to close on the house. We're about to close. It's our house. We got furniture, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. He's also telling me that he's been in contact with the realtor, his friend, who was telling him, this is what was happening next. Here's what's going on. So the guy that we initially worked with apparently is completely out of the picture. But again, I was not heavily involved. So I'm just like, let me look at the house. I see it's off market. What the fuck does off market mean? Like, now I'm really freaking out. So it shows the name of the real estate agent for the seller. I don't remember her name. I called her and I said, I said, my husband and I, even though I wasn't married, my husband and I were looking at this house at 123 Main Street. And we really wanted to tour it, but now I'm showing it's off market. Is it not available? Or, I pulled that card and she was like, oh, no, ma'am. The home closed yesterday. It closed June 4th. Again, there are certain dates I just remember. And I said, oh, it closed June 4th? I was like, really? And she said, yes, ma'am. She was like, my sellers sold the house. And I was like, oh, man, okay. Well, I said, my husband and I really wanted, we love the pictures of it. And we're getting ready to start a family. So I would have loved to have been able to, have the opportunity to see it. I asked her something. I don't remember the specific question I asked her. And I know why I asked the question, because I was anticipating that my boyfriend at the time was going to have some sort of excuse. So I asked her something about the buyers. And I remember, and somehow, again, forgive me, I don't remember the question I asked her. But the answer was that it was an older white couple. Older white couple. So I get off the phone with her. I record an audio diary, and in the audio diary, I specifically say, okay, there is no house. He's going to have to get out of this lie somehow. Because now I realize, at the very least, he was lying about him being the one who was under contract. I knew enough about that. So I was like, what how was he going to get out of this? Again, I've listened to the audio diary in 2024. I literally said in that audio diary, how is he going to get out of this lie? And I was trying to think of ways on how he's going to do it. And something said to me, because I say it on the audio diary, I said, he's going to say it's a bad deal. And he's going to say he wants to pull out. Y'all keep in mind, I am pregnant. So I had a decision to make. As ugly as this decision was, I made the decision, you're about to have a baby with this man. He's paying all the household bills. Let him get out of the lie. And that's what I did. I purposely made the decision that I knew he was going to come back, and I knew he was going to give me some bullshit on why he couldn't buy the house, because he didn't know that I knew that house is already sold. The house is already sold. And this is the part where I said, I'm gonna be honest, even though it's gonna make me look bad, because most women in their right mind would have been like, I'm out. And I didn't. So sure enough, he came home. He didn't really say anything that day. The next day I asked him about the house, and he said, my friend, the realtor, he was like, I'm talking to him because something's going on with the interest rate. And when he said that, I felt so much relief, because I knew that I had been prepared for, he's going to give you some bullshit. So when he said there's something with the interest rate, I said, you know what? This is literally what I said, y'all. If the interest rate isn't good, then we shouldn't move there. We should probably let this house go. We should cancel whatever furniture we ordered, or, appliances, and let's just look for another house. I said I would like to be moved before the end of the year. I said I really don't want to be 9 months pregnant moving into a house. I would like to be done with this before then. And the way I said it was so calm, and he was like, okay. He was like, I'm gonna call the friend, the realtor, and tell him I'm backing out of the house, and I'm gonna see if I can get my earnest money back. And I remember looking at him. I was standing in the kitchen, and I cocked my head to the side, and I said, okay, get your earnest money back, and let's find another house. And so that's how that first house fell through. So, fast forward, I keep looking at this to see how much time I have, because they only give you 10 minutes. So this is part 5, part 6 is coming up. But subsequently, what ends up happening the next week, which is mid-June, I was at work, and I started cramping, started bleeding. And at this point, my doctor, I had just had an ultrasound earlier that day. So I went to work, because the ultrasound was fine. I went to work, and the cramping and the bleeding started, and I started crying because I kind of knew what was going on. And my doctor had called me and told me that when they did the ultrasound, they did not see a heartbeat. So she was like, this pregnancy is not going to be viable. So I'm crying, hysterical. And now we're going to get into who the fuck did I marry? So where we left off. So obviously, my doctor had called and told me there was no heartbeat. The pregnancy was not viable at that point. And I was cramping and spotting at work. Went into my best friend's office and immediately started crying. She was like, what's going on? And I said, I told her what the doctor said. And she grabbed her keys, grabbed her purse, and was like, let's go. I'm taking you home. On my way home, I called my boyfriend and told him what the doctor said, and he was like, I'll meet you at home. So he was coming from Duluth, went straight home. And so about 24 or 48 hours later, I had a doctor's appointment, and my doctor gave me 3 options. First option, let everything happen naturally. Your body will expel the fetus on its own. Second option, you can take a pill which will induce expelling the fetus at home. The pill basically will cause you to contract and expel. The third option was to go into the hospital and do a D&C. I did not want to do a D&C because I did not want to be in a hospital with COVID going on. And for whatever reason, I did not do the option of let it happen naturally. So I chose to do the pill. His birthday was June 17th. My ex's birthday was June 17th. So the decision was made, we're going to celebrate his birthday that day, go out to eat. And then that night I would take the pill because we both were off from work the next 2 or 3 days. So went out to eat to try to celebrate as best we could, and then took the pill that night. That night was the most traumatic, excruciating pain I've ever put my body through. I do not recommend any woman, if prayerfully you don't have to go through that, but I don't recommend taking that pill. If you don't have to, don't do it. I spent the whole night in the bathroom just crying in so much pain. They gave me a narcotic. I couldn't take it because I found out I was allergic to it, so it was causing me to like projectile vomiting. It was a mess. So, and he was right there. You know, he was scared that he needed to take me to the ER. But in the morning, the pain kind of subsided. So about 72 hours later, I had another doctor's appointment where the purpose of this appointment was to do an ultrasound to see if everything had passed. Everything did not pass. So because of that, my doctor was like, we're going to have to do a D&C. My D&C was scheduled for the first week of July. My boyfriend, my ex, was going to take me. That was always the plan. 2 days before my procedure, he comes home and tells me that he is up for a promotion. He's up to be promoted to VP. Because of this, the president of the company, is coming in, and it was going to be this huge business meeting he had to go to. The business meeting was scheduled for the day of my surgery. And so I'm throwing a fit because I was like, you there's no way you can do that meeting. Like, I need you to take me to the hospital and all this other stuff. And so he offered to have his sister take me to the hospital. Apparently his sister lived in Douglasville. I was like, no, because I've never met her. Like, I'm not having a stranger take me to the hospital. No, this is a private situation. I don't want to do that, blah, blah, blah. So my aunt had offered to take me, and then my friend who took me home from work had offered to take me. So at that point, we get into an argument because he's like, my sister is, you about your family, so why can't she step in? And I was like, nah, because I don't know her. Period. I don't know her. So my friend offers to take me to the hospital because I was all distressed that he's saying he has a business meeting and he can't take me. So I remember being on I-75 on the connector on the phone with her crying because I was so embarrassed that he wasn't going to be the one to take me and that I was needing to rely on someone else to take me to the hospital in order to get a D&C done. And she was really great. She was like, girl, this is why you have a village. Like, it's okay. Things happen. The world is crazy right now. I will take you. You're going to be okay. So he did not take me to the hospital for my DNC. My friend did. She could not stay because of COVID protocol. So when they wheeled me into pre-op after I got checked in, I texted him and was just letting him know, hey, here's the update. I'm about to, I'm in pre-op. They're going to get me prepared to go back to the surgical ward or whatever. And the response I got was from his new executive assistant named David. Now, when he told me he was up for the promotion, he did tell me that part of getting this new job would be that he would get an executive assistant named David. And he did tell me, I'm going to make sure that I inform David, if you get a text from this number, meaning from me, pull me out of the meeting, because, my fiance's having a procedure done and I'm picking her up. So it's important that you come get me if it's something serious. So I text him. David responds. He said, yeah, Mr. Blah Blah told me that you are having a procedure done. If you need me to get him, I can go get him. He's in a meeting. Just let me know what you need. And I just said, no, don't bother him. I'm just giving an update that they're about to take me back. And David responds and says, I'm so sorry you're going through this. Please let me know if there's anything I can do. So I have the procedure. I wake up and I am now in recovery. I should be in recovery 45 minutes up to an hour and a half. I wake up, first thing I ask, and I remember asking, is where is so-and-so? The nurse, who was so sweet, she was like, everything went well. You're doing great. She said, we spoke to your fiance. He's on his way. So I said, okay. I kind of dozed back out, but I could still hear everything that was going on. I just could not keep my eyes open to save my life. So I hear her talk to the other nurse. And that's when she said, yeah, Dr. So-and-so called her fiance and his executive assistant picked up. And the executive assistant said that he was in a business meeting and that, you could relay to him what you need to say, and he'll tell the fiance. And my doctor was like, hell no, HIPAA, I need to speak to him. So apparently my fiance called the doctor back about 30 minutes later, and the doctor informed him she'll be ready to be discharged in about an hour. You can make your way and come pick her up. He said he was on his way. He was on his way from Duluth to Atlanta, which is not a huge distance, but the time of day, one thing about Atlanta, there's always traffic. So he should have been there within the hour. Should have been in recovery at Northside Hospital for about, at most, an hour and a half. Subsequently, I ended up being in recovery between 3 to 3.5 hours. The nurses kept calling my ex, asking what's the status, because they were actually getting ready to do a shift change. So they kept calling, asking, what's the status? Like, where are you? I want to say that they called a total of 3 times and they spoke to him twice. So at this point, I knew that they were all like, where's her fiance? Like, what is going on? He said he was stuck in traffic, and so he was making his way there. He eventually did get to Northside Hospital, and they wheeled me down, because again, he couldn't come in just because of the protocols. So when I got in the car, and I'm in pain, but yet drugged up, couldn't keep my eyes open, I was just out of it. But I remember him calling my aunt and my mother and letting them know, I picked her up, we're on the way home, let me get her settled, and then I'll give you guys an update. I remember that. What I did not know was that he had texted my aunt and my mom and asked them to not bother me for like a week. Like, just please don't reach out to her, let her just rest. I am from New Jersey. I am from an African American family. You don't tell my black mama or my black aunt that, please don't bother her for a week. I didn't know this at the time, but I'm just interjecting that part. I'm trying to stay in the timeline, but he did apparently do that, and my aunt was like, "Well, I will fuck you up." Anyway, so go home. He waits on me hand and foot. I recover. Just needed about 24 to 48 hours to just get my mind right. During this time, in between when the house in Douglasville fell through, we had not talked about a house. So I guess it was about a week later, after the DNC, he decides that, do you want to start looking for a house again? Excuse me, I have the hiccups, y'all. Do you want to start looking for a house again? Because of what happened with the house in Douglasville, I felt like I was smarter this time to say, I want to be involved in every aspect, because I don't know what the fuck happened with that house in Douglasville. But what I do know is that he lied to me. I didn't know then what I know now. I just knew he lied about I knew he lied about being under contract. So I told him, I said, I don't want to work with your friend who I've never met, never talked to. I know that he has talked to him because he's talked to him in front of me. And I'm going to demonstrate on one of the videos how he used to do his phone calls. Don't worry, it's coming. So we found a new real estate agent. Really nice guy. His name was Scott. I am using his real name. Really nice guy. And we told him what the budget was. And Scott was like, okay, when you guys are ready, we can start looking at houses. Try to look for houses that are empty, because you can actually tour those. If it's a house where someone's already living in there, chances are it's going to be a virtual tour because of COVID. So I found a house that I absolutely, in total, we must have looked at about 15 houses. But I found a house in Smyrna that I absolutely loved. We toured the house. Everything about this house was perfect. The house was listed for $699,000. It was a brand new construction build. The only issue was that the basement was not finished, and he wanted the basement to be his man cave. Again, I went with him to tour this house. So this was already feeling very different than the situation in Douglasville, because we did not actually tour the Douglasville house. We only did a FaceTime virtual tour. This house in Smyrna, we toured. We toured this house more than once. And it was gorgeous. Fucking gorgeous. So we talked about it. He said that he had the money. Again, the price was $699. He said he felt comfortable putting in an all-cash offer. If you remember on the videos before, he told me he had money in his savings from when he played football. So when he said an all-cash offer, even I knew, you got that kind of money? Like, where you can cut a cashier's check for $699,000? And he told me he did. He had money in savings from when he played football, and he was very comfortable paying all cash for this home. So the real estate agent, Scott, sent over the paperwork. The paperwork was sent in both of our names. It was sent to my email. That was another thing that I changed after Douglasville. Everything gets sent to me, and then I will be sure that he signs it. So he sent it to me. I looked over the offer. We were going to put in an all cash, full price offer with a request to have the basement finished. Also, we were requesting for the seller to give us an answer within 24 hours. We were requesting a quick closing. These are just some of the things I remember. I remember 24 hours, like I didn't want to wait on y'all think about it. 24 hours, let us know if you're accepting the offer or not. And then also a quick closing because it was a new construction. So we didn't have to wait for the current tenant to move out. We didn't have to do that. So I watched in our bedroom as he pulled it up because it was a electronic document. He signed his name to the offer for $699,000 cash. He requested again, the seller let us know in 24 hours if they were accepting the offer. So we submitted the offer at around 6 p.m. We were requesting that by 6 p.m. the next day, they let us know if the offer was accepted or not. I watched him sign the offer. I sent the offer back to Scott from my email. All parties had signed. Scott texted us and said, I got it. I'm submitting it. I will let you know what they say. Let's Smyrna. I sent it over to Scott, our realtor, and next day comes, Scott asks if we can take a phone call. So he calls us and tells us that the offer was not accepted and the builder did not do a counter offer. We don't exactly know why. We don't exactly know why he didn't accept it, but the bottom line is that we figured out later on that he didn't want to finish the basement. So the offer was not accepted. The house fell through. I was okay with that because, again, I knew he had put in an offer. So we continued looking at other houses. We found another house in Smyrna that he really liked. I thought that it was way too big for just the two of us. And so the price of this home was much higher than the $750,000 that Chase had approved for the mortgage. So what he explained to me was that he was willing to do the $750,000 mortgage, and he was also willing to put a significant amount of the money in savings on the house, which meant that he was now comfortable going from $750,000 up to about $900,000. Again, his whole explanation was, I have the money where I can put down a substantial down payment, bring down the price of the home, and then basically mortgage the rest of it. So that was now the plan. I was not comfortable with a home over $900,000. But again, keep in mind, I saw the Chase paperwork. So I was like, I just feel more comfortable sticking at the $750,000 mark. That's what you were approved for. Let's go with that. By this point, this is now fall of 2020. We had been talking about marriage. I had my ring. He had made VP at the company. And again, he was calling me every day from work. I need to kind of explain how the company was ran, because when you think VP, you would think he would be in an office. It was a condiment company, so they actually were producing the condiments, and I'm not saying the name of the company on purpose, but they were producing the condiments in this particular plant location. So a lot of times he would simply tell me that he walked the floor, checking in with his subordinates, basically. Now, how did he go to work? For the most part, at this point, he left before I woke up. However, pretty much he wore dress pants, kind of like a dark navy blue cargo pant, and he had a polo shirt with the company logo on it. What I saw a lot of times is that he would not wear the polo shirt to work. He would wear like a company t-shirt. He would wear rubber sole shoes and the navy blue cargo pants. I didn't think it was a uniform, but it reminded me of what someone would wear when I worked at Amazon, if you're going to be doing manual labor. He didn't go to work sloppy looking at all, but it definitely was not suit and tie. Nowhere near suit and tie. It is fair to note that outside of work, he was a man who he loved to dress. He loved to wear the latest Jordans. He loved to collect watches. He collected a lot of Invicta watches. He he loved to collect hats. He wore hats, baseball caps everywhere because he didn't like the shape of his head. So in terms of how he dressed casually, the man, he could dress. In terms of how he dressed for work, yeah, he didn't dress like a VP. But his excuse was, I'm constantly walking the production floor, and I can't be in a suit and tie walking the production floor where they're creating the condiments that we're selling. So by this point, again, this is fall. We're still looking at houses. We're still touring houses as much as we can because it is COVID. We had found another house that we really liked and a house that I really truly wanted to put an offer in on. This was now going to be the second house that we put an offer on. He put in the asking price, I believe, was about $700,000. He put in under asking an offer for about $650,000. I'm guessing, but I'll try to find the house and put it on the story. The reason that house fell through, we found out that the home was sitting on a septic tank. We found out that the septic tank had an issue, and it would have taken about $15,000 to $20,000 to fix the septic tank. The sellers were not willing to fix the septic tank. Personally, I didn't really care for the house that much. I'm the one who was like, I don't really want it. So even though we put an offer in, we had 24 hours where we could pull our offer back. And so we did. Once we found out, I believe it was in the disclosure. And if you're a realtor, please feel free to tell me if I'm using the wrong terminology. But I believe it was in the disclosure that they told us the septic tank needs to be replaced. That's when I was like, nah, I don't want that house. So we pulled out. The house fell through. And so I was fine with it because, again, I was heavily involved. I saw him sign the offer. I knew every step of what was going on. Our real estate agent, Scott, was amazing, but you will see when I get to it where he made a mistake as a real estate agent. So house number 2 fell through. We then moved on, saw a few more houses, and then we get to house number 3. I'm going to pause talking about the houses because now I need to introduce what happened with the cars. Stay tuned. I'm creating some confusion, so just allow this video to serve as a stop sign. Let's clarify. First of all, the story, background. He was born in Philly, raised in Philly, and moved to Augusta. Story is that he moved to Augusta for high school. After high school, he went to college at San Diego State. Enjoyed San Diego State, stayed in San Diego for quite a while. Got married out in California, had a house in California, played arena football out in California, but his family was back here in Augusta, Georgia. He still had a lot of family up in Philly, but for the most part, he had a sister in Augusta. He had a sister in Douglasville. He had a brother in Baltimore. He had another brother in Philly, and he had a brother in Nashville. So I just want to clarify that in terms of not the demographics, but the geography. Born in Philly, came to Augusta for high school, went to San Diego State for college, played football, stayed in San Diego, stayed at San Diego, got married out there, but still had quite a bit of family here in here in Georgia. He also had a sister, I think I said, who lived in Douglasville. I have physically met his aunt who lived in Augusta. I've met his brother who lives in Augusta. I have spoken on FaceTime with a brother who lives in Baltimore. And then I will demonstrate how he used to talk to the brother that lives in Philly. That's coming up. You haven't missed that. In terms of the proposal, you did not miss the story of the proposal. I simply didn't want to share it because it was embarrassing. Basically, he gave me 3 ring options. We went to a jeweler at the Mall of Georgia. He had me pick out 3 rings. I told him which one I liked the most because I knew it wasn't a romantic proposal at all. I knew which ring I liked the most. I told him which one. He basically said, when I'm ready, I'll give you the ring and I'll propose. Fast forward about, I guess it was summer because I was actually pregnant when the ring came. We were sitting at the dinner table. He took the ring box out of his pocket, slammed it on the dinner table, and I was like, what is this? He was like, open it. I opened it. Inside was the ring that I had wanted, that I had chosen at the jeweler. And he was like, all right, so this means that you're going to be my wife. I was pregnant. So, again, when I asked y'all to give me grace, it's because there are certain things that's just like, girl, what was you thinking? Trust me. There's no excuse. So there was never a, will you marry me? It was more of a, we're living together, we're having a baby together, we need to get married, because the backstory also was that his dad was a retired police officer, but at one point his father was a pastor. So he could quote the Bible like nobody's business, as we all know. So can Lucifer. But anyway, he could quote the Bible like no one's business. And so that's how we ended up engaged. And I was wearing a ring. I will find a picture and I will try to post it. But I was wearing the ring. Don't worry, there's more to that story as well. So just wanted to clarify some things for the people who were like, wasn't it weird that he had a sister who lived close, but he's from Philly? So I just wanted to definitely bring clarity to what he told me was the backstory. Born in Philly, came to Augusta for high school, went to California for college, played football at San Diego State, played football and arena football, worked at Apple, and then joined the condiment company in California, who then transferred him back to Georgia. He was married in California, and he told me he got divorced in California. That is important as well. That will come up again later. And so the ex-wife, at this point in time, at the time that I'm telling you, part 7, which is the last video I just posted, the ex-wife lived in California with her 2 kids, his 2 stepkids. The 2 stepkids were 17 and 20 or 21, but they were that age group. And he was saying that he was very close with them, so he wanted to keep a tight relationship with them. And he talked to them, if not every day, every other day. When I say, when I say this, I need y'all to understand. When I say that he talked to someone, it means that he was on the phone in front of me talking to the person. I hope that, because I will touch back on this. He was on the phone in front of me talking to the person. So he talked to his siblings every day. He talked to his aunt almost every day. He talked to his family the way I talk to my family almost every day. And again, I will demonstrate how he used to do the phone calls. I will also demonstrate how he used to do the work phone calls, because he called me every single day from work. And he would talk to people while he was on the phone with me. And I could hear people in the background. But that's a whole nother part. So again, buckle your seats. I promise I'm reading your comments, I'm reading your questions, but I wanted to bring this video just to clarify some stuff. Hopefully this helps. And honestly, I know people are fascinated by this, but more than anything, I hope that there's a woman watching this and she's saying to herself, okay, it's time for me to ask some questions. Husband, I was driving a 2012 Nissan Rogue, fully loaded. It had quite a few miles on it, but it got me from A to B. It was in good condition, but I was upside down in the car. He was driving a 2018 Ford Taurus, sport mode. I know he had a sport mode on the car, and I love driving that car. When he told me how he was a regional manager, he told me that one of the perks that came with the job was that he would be getting a company car. And so we spent time going to Range Rover of South Atlanta. We spent time going to Jaguar. We spent time going to BMW. We spent time going to Ford, which was on Mount Zion in Morrow, if you all are familiar with that area. He test drove a whole lot of cars. In the end, he decided on a BMW sedan. I was there when he test drove the car. I got in the car with him. I loved it. And he explained to the salesperson, you know, I'm getting a company car. I need to get a printout of the full price of the car, tax, tag, and title. Because what my company is going to do is wire over the money for the car. The salesperson was like, okay, you know, apparently that happens a lot. So he gave him a printout with the tax, tag, and title for the car. In front of me and the salesperson, he called the person in the finance department for his job. Obviously, I have no idea what this person's name is, but he called the person. He explained to them, this is the amount of money. He said the president of the company, so-and-so, has authorized for him to get a car, not spending more than, I think, $90,000 tax, tag, and title. The BMW came out to just under $90,000. And so I remember this conversation so fucking vividly. So he's on the phone in front. I'm sitting down, the salesperson sitting down at their desk, and he's like, they put me on hold. And so he's like, I guess the person comes back and he says, yeah, the price of the car is blah, blah, blah. He was like, give me a second and I can send you a picture of that printout that shows tax, tag, and title for the BMW. He gets off the phone. He takes a picture of it. He sends it to whoever. He waits about 10 minutes. He calls the person back. He says, did you get it? Apparently the person did get it. But the person who can actually physically do the wire transfer had gone home for the day. So what he says to the BMW salesperson, he's like, okay, we're going to have to do this tomorrow because so-and-so went home for the day. I don't know who the salesperson is. I can only tell you from my viewpoint what I thought. I had no reason to think this was a lie. I really didn't. Because again, you got to please keep in mind the circumstances that all of this is happening. We're inside the dealership. We're sitting at the desk of this person. He gave us the printout. He's on the phone, doing business, basically saying, look, this is how much money the car is going to cost. He's taking a picture of it. He seemingly is texting someone saying this is how much, this is proof of how much it is. Then he asked the BMW salesperson, I need your wire transfer information. The guy got up, rushed over to, I guess, their finance area to get the wire the bank wire information, because obviously you have to wire it a certain kind of way. Rushes back over, gives it to my ex-husband. My ex-husband's like, okay, first thing in the morning, we will get this wired over, and then, I'll come and pick up the car. My fiance, me, will drive me up here to pick up the car. So we leave. He felt like, because at the time that this all happened, I was pregnant. So he felt like, look, we're about to have a baby. I don't want you driving that Nissan Rogue. I want to get you something more secure, something new. I really wanted a Kia. I really wanted a Kia Telluride. And he was like, well, let's look at the warranty. This man knew a lot about cars. He knew a lot about the warranty. He knew a lot about the depreciation value. And so he did talk to me a lot about what will we get the most for our money. We test drove, when I say we, I test drove a Kia Telluride, a Kia Sorento. He didn't like either of those. He had me test drive a Ford Explorer. He didn't really care for that. Then came time where he really wanted me to get a BMW. He really wanted me to get a BMW X5. So he took me to Global BMW Imports, which, if you know anything about Atlanta, it's off of Cobb Parkway, but you can see it off the highway. I believe 285 is where you can see the Global Imports BMW dealership. He took me there. He had me test drive an X5, an X6. He also had me test drive I think I'm gonna get the numbers wrong, a 525, which was a sedan. I did not like that. I wanted an SUV. I loved driving the BMW. He also had me drive an M-Series, test drive an M-Series. So he was very adamant that I should get a BMW. The reason being is because, according to him, he had a BMW in California when he lived in San Diego. He had a BMW that he loved. It was a white BMW. He showed me pictures of the BMW. So he showed me pictures of this white BMW that he had, and unfortunately, the car got totaled about 2 months before he moved to Georgia. So he had received money, not a lot, but some money to get another car, and he used it to get the Ford Taurus, because he was like, I just need a car that's going to get me from A to B until I get into a house and I'm much more settled. For him, he was like, I'm really giving myself 60 days to get settled here in Georgia after moving from California. But then he met me. Again, that's the story. So he had me test drive the BMW. So much so, I loved the BMW. Loved it. I wanted a dark blue BMW with cognac interior. I wanted an X5, and I wanted an M-Series. So I can clearly tell y'all that's exactly the car I wanted. We were online looking for that particular car because not every dealership had it. I was okay with a black BMW if needed. But I really wanted dark blue, and I really wanted that cognac colored interior. So he felt like, I want you to consider all of a sudden an Audi Q8. Let's just see how you like it. If you don't really like it, then we will go back to the BMW. I cannot tell you why he switched up. I can't. But I can tell you he took me to an Audi dealership on Peachtree Industrial. He test drove an Audi, and I test drove an Audi Q8. I loved the Q8. Loved it, loved it, loved it. But I was tired of test driving cars. By this point, I had test driven so many cars. Our weekends were spent either looking at a house or test driving cars. And I was picky, I will admit that. So he had me test drive the Q8. I really liked it. I finally just told him, look, I'm good with either the BMW or the Audi, because I'm tired of test driving cars. He told my family he was buying me a new car because, keep in mind, let me let y'all know. He had met my family initially on Zoom because, again, we were locked down. He had met my family. He also had met my family in person, because at this point it was like, look, if you're not showing any symptoms, maybe we can do family dinner. And so he had met my family in person, and now we will go ahead and move toward. Okay, had to sneeze. All right, so at this point I had test driven all these cars, Kias. Hell, he even had me test drive a Nissan Murano, but the main two were BMW and an Audi. He had told my grandfather he was getting me a car. He had told my aunt he was getting me a car, that he was going to, he was like, she's going to be my wife. I want her to be in something secure. So my family was really like, wow, wow, who knew that he had this kind of money? And so I hated the fact that he did that, because anytime he got around my family, here's another red flag to put in the United Nations of red flags, he would always talk about money, and he would always brag. I never realized it in real time. I didn't realize it until I was out of the situation. He always bragged about the fact that he could fight, the fact that he had money, and the fact that he played football. Those are the three things he always bragged about. Back to the cars. So I told him, I was like, pick one between the BMW and the Audi, because you said you buying it. So pick one. So this man chose the Audi. So he takes me to the dealership. I wanted a white Q8. He does give me the printout of how much it's going to cost, tax, tag, and title, to get this Q8. Gentleman who's helping us gives him the printout. He's saying he's going to pay this money for the car out of the savings account that's offshore. That's the story. That's what he's saying. So he apparently is asking the guy, is there a holding fee? Can I pay a holding fee to secure this car while I'm working to get the money transferred? Because obviously with COVID, it's going to take long for the banks to transfer the money. Side note, I need everyone to understand, one of the reasons why he was able to get away with the stuff he got away with is because we were on lockdown. It's crazy because it's now 2024, but I don't know, do we all remember how it seemed like a lot of stuff stopped in 2020? Now, keep in mind, that's not an excuse I'm making, because shit still got done. But in terms of business as usual just was not happening in 2020 at this time. So when he's saying, oh, it's going to take a while for the bank to transfer the money, the gentleman who was working at Audi he didn't make a face. He didn't blink. He was like, I know it's going to take a while because of COVID. So basically what ends up happening is we leave. He has the printout. He calls the bank, or he calls his financial advisor, who does have a name. The financial advisor's name is Eric. I feel comfortable using certain people's names, especially if we find out they didn't exist. So he calls Eric. He tells Eric in front of me, hey, I need to transfer $72,526, whatever the amount was, because I'm buying a car for my fiance. This is the bank account information. Do you need me to give it to you over the phone, or do you need me to email it to you? Pause. I can't hear what the person's saying, but that's what he would do. Do you need me to give it to you over the phone, or can I email it to you? Okay. All right, give me a few minutes and I'll go ahead and email it to you. All right, let me know. I'll call you back to find out if you received it. Okay, hang up. So I'm hearing this because, again, I'm not paying attention to, did I hear anybody on the other phone? Did I hear anybody on the other end? So he proceeds to type up an email, type up something, telling him this is the information that we need. I didn't think anything of it. He called me at work the next day to tell me that the money was sent to Audi, that he called Audi and he confirmed with Audi that they received the money. What he told me is that the car is going to be delivered to the house. Y'all, it's not that I lived in the hood, because I didn't, but I did not live in an area of Clayton County where you would have a brand new Audi delivered to your house. So I remember saying to him, I don't want that car like delivered to the house, not yet, because I need to put that car in the garage. And my Nissan I only had a 1-car garage, so my Nissan was in the garage. So he said, okay, well, let me call them back and change the delivery date. Can you be home, or can you do a half day? So he's asking me, can you work a half day so that they can deliver the car and you will be home for it? I said, yes, that's fine. Because again, it's COVID. I'm working from home anyway. I only had to go in the office 2 days a week. So I'm at home the next day. He told me the car would be delivered between the hours of 1 and 3. Obviously, between 1 and 3, nothing happened. So 3 o'clock, I called him. He's at work. He sends me the voicemail. He calls me back. I said, it's 3 o'clock. No one ever came with the car. What's going on? And then I remember I was like, well, do I need to call Audi myself? Because I thought that you handled it. But if you didn't handle it, do I need to call them? And so whenever I would suggest I will handle it, he would get very, very defensive. Red flag number 472. So he was like, no, I will call Audi. Don't do anything. I'll call Audi and find out what's going on. Okay. So I'm at home chilling, cooking dinner, normal night. He calls me back and says, yeah, the car was stuck on the truck in Spartanburg, because apparently that's where their deliveries come from. So when he told me this, I was in the kitchen laughing, because by this point, I will be honest, and I told y'all I'll be honest even when it makes me look bad. I was guilty of, on one hand, I believed him, and on the other hand, I was like, let me see what lie he come up with. Let me just see. But keep in mind, my brain was really like not rationalizing, not comprehending how deep the lie was. I just thought that no one told him the car was going to be delivered, and he made that up. I had no idea how deep the lie went. So he said, the car's in Spartanburg. It should be delivered this weekend. The weekend came, he had a whole other excuse. I don't remember what the exact excuse was as to why the car was never delivered. I do remember we got into an argument, and I was like, don't even worry about it. I'm going to get a new car my damn self. I don't even need your help. Which is probably one of the worst things you can tell a narcissist, because they love to be the hero, it's all about them. But I was like, don't even worry about it. I'll get, when I have the money to get a car myself, I'll do it. I don't want to hear anything else about a new car. I don't want to hear shit else about a car. Because at this point, I was spending way too much time trying to figure out, are we getting a car? Are we getting a house? Like, what the fuck is going on? Always there was an excuse. So when I told him I don't want to hear anything else about a car, and I am not going to a dealership to test drive another car, that ended that whole discussion right there. So this is where I'm going to interject what I believe was happening. I believe that my ex-husband is the type of person, he gets off, nut. He gets off on you being excited about something that he knows you will never get. So I believe that he enjoyed going to car dealerships. He enjoyed watching me test drive a car and get excited about it, knowing I was not going to get it. It is the level of cruelty. And again, I'm telling y'all stuff that I found out way later on. It is the level of cruelty that I still cannot comprehend. So the whole issue about the BMW and the Audi, I think he just enjoyed seeing me get excited and then pull it away. Part 11 coming up. backstory on the family. Pause all the stuff about the house, pause the stuff about the car. This is backstory on his family, my ex-husband's family. All right, follow me. My ex-husband's parents, mom and dad, are both deceased. Mom passed away from cancer. Dad passed away shortly after her. I'm not sure what he passed away from. So he has a number of siblings. He has two, with his parents, he has two siblings, two brothers. One is older, lives in Philly. One is younger by 2 years, lives in Nashville. He has two sisters. One, Shantae, is older, lives in Douglasville with her husband and two kids, a boy and a girl. Younger sister, Kim, is the baby, lives in Augusta with her husband, worked at, I think he told me, Procter and Gamble. That was the story. He had two half brothers that were through his dad. One brother lived in Baltimore. The other brother lived in Augusta. The brother that lived in Augusta, I have physically met in person, shook hands, hugged, all that. The brother that lived in Baltimore, I have FaceTimed with, talked to him. The brother that lived in Philly, the older brother that he looked up to, I have never talked to him on the phone. I would always talk to him through my ex-husband. So the conversation would be like, hey babe, brother so-and-so said hey. He didn't call him brother so-and-so. We'll call him John. John said hey. Hey John. I would be in the bathroom doing my hair, brushing my teeth. Hey John. And he would be like, did you hear? He said, how you doing? I was like, I'm good. How's he doing? Because that's just me. And so he would relay back and forth. He talked to John every day from starting around July after the grandmother passed away. He would talk to John every morning. We both would be getting ready for work and he would be on the phone with John. They would be talking for 30, 40 minutes, talking about football, talking about other siblings. They would be talking about cars. It was really like not a big deal. They would talk about the brother in Baltimore. They would talk about the brother in Augusta. And then they would reminisce. This is the conversations I could hear. Let me explain. When I say I can hear a conversation, what that means is I am physically standing near him or next to him where I could hear him with the phone up to his ear talking to someone, because it wasn't me. Okay? I may not hear the other person because the phone call may not be on speakerphone. But what I hear is, for example, I hear, hey man, what y'all doing? Oh, for real? Y'all barbecuing this weekend? What y'all making? Oh, that's what's up. Nah, I think me and her gonna stay in this weekend because, these numbers is looking crazy with COVID. Yeah, she over here. She's sitting right here. She watched the TV. Okay, hold on. John said, hey. Hey, John. You heard her? Okay. All right, bruh. I just wanted to check in on you. That's the type of conversation I'm explaining. Okay, so I hope that gives a little more clarity about the type of conversations I'm hearing. So, I don't know why this light keeps going out. Okay, so that's how he would talk to his siblings. The grandmother passed away. He called me around April or May and told me that his grandmother passed away. His grandmother, on his dad's side, had died suddenly from COVID. She had symptoms. She went to bed and did not wake up. He was distraught. He was crying. He wasn't eating. He was just sitting there, listening to music, not watching TV, just sad, because he was like, my grandmother was always my support system. So from what I saw, it really bothered him. I did not think anything of it. I'm one of those people. If you tell me somebody in your family passed away, I'm gonna believe you, because I don't play about death. And I guess I expect other people don't either. Um, however, however, that is not the same for everyone else. But we'll get there. So, family. He had his sister Shantae, who lived in Douglasville. Like I said, she was married with 2 kids. Apparently, she was a nurse. So when I had my miscarriage, that was a sister that he was like, my sister will take you to the hospital. Like, that's what family does. Okay. I had never met Shantae. I've been on the phone, or excuse me, I've been around him when he was on the phone with Shantae. Never heard her part of the conversation. But he would be talking to his sister. That's what he said. That's what it sounded like too. Now, what is interesting is that we lived maybe 35, 40 minutes away from Douglasville. So there were plenty of times that he had invited me to go with him to his sister's house. Okay, let me tell you how this would always work out. Total times he invited me was probably 3 times for different barbecues or whatnot. The first time he invited me, I was like, nah, I ain't going, because again, COVID. And she's a nurse. Hell no. The second time he was like, yeah, she invited us, but I don't think we should go because COVID. No. The third time I agreed to go. I was like, absolutely, I'll go meet your sister. Like, that'd be great. On our way to her house, to Douglasville, to go see the sister, apparently he got a phone call. The phone was always like on vibrate, but he got a phone call and he told me that something came up, and so she had to cancel the barbecue, the get together, whatever. And so I was just like, oh man, okay, well, hopefully we can go another time. It didn't happen close enough for me to have red flags, if that makes sense. But at this point, as y'all probably like, girl, you so blind. But again, I didn't think anything of it, because it's like, okay, it fell through. We'll see. We'll reschedule. And so we just went out to eat, and then he talked to another brother, the brother from Augusta that he would have on speakerphone. So it was like, I didn't think anything of it. I really didn't. Man, and the more I talk about it, the more I realize, like, I'm not a dumb person, but it just never dawned on me the things that you have to now investigate. It didn't dawn on me, but nevertheless, that is the backstory for his family, right? Grandmother passed away. 3 weeks later, he called me and told me his uncle had passed away from COVID. The uncle had tested positive, had to go into the hospital, and he died. It was a bit of a red flag. It was a bit of a red flag, but like I said, I don't play about death. So I was just like, wow. Because of these 2 deaths, he became a stickler about COVID. And when I mean a stickler, wear your mask, wear gloves, hand sanitize, wash your hands. Like, he was annoying about making sure neither one of us caught COVID. So now I'm going to give you the backstory in regards to what I was told with the ex-wife. So this is the backstory on what I was told for the ex-wife. This is important. Pay attention. All right. This is 2020. So this is what I was told in 2020. I was told that he and his ex-wife used to be friends. Then they started dating and subsequently got married. They got married in California. He had bought a house with the money that he made from arena football. They had apparently gotten married on the downward of the arena football career. Had a nice house. He showed me a picture of the house, showed me pictures inside the house. Remember that? showed me pictures inside the house. It was a really nice home in San Diego. And basically, what happened was that he came home from work early one day and I have the hiccup, sorry. Came home early from work one day and his wife was sleeping with another man. The man was in the house. He and the man get into it. Her son, who is about 17 years old in 2020, she had two kids, a daughter and a son. The son apparently was on his way home from school when my ex-husband found his previous wife in bed with another man. So the story goes that he and the guy fought. He kicked the guy out. He kicked his ex-wife out, but told her the kids could stay. The kids are not biologically his. Those are his stepkids. She was like, you must be kidding. Like, I'm not leaving my kids here. The kids are old enough to where they were like, we don't want to go because you fucked up. We don't want to leave. So apparently she leaves. The kids stay with him for a few weeks. And then she gets her own place. The kids move out, move in with their mom. He files for divorce in California. He files for divorce in California, and it was an ugly divorce. She was asking for spousal support, all kinds of stuff. And then it turned into, you know, I'll help you with the kids, not child support, but just I will give you some money for the kids, because apparently he was very close to the kids and he wanted to keep a relationship with the kids. Their biological fathers, apparently there were two fathers, their biological fathers were not in the picture. So the divorce starts out contested and ugly, eventually becomes amicable. Eventually they become cordial with each other. So my ex-husband moved. This is all before he ever met me. So I'm telling you the story of what I was told in 2020. So eventually, about 2 years later, is when his job approached him about an opportunity to transfer to Georgia. And so he took it. New beginning, fresh start. He has family in Georgia. He took it. He told me this story pretty much the second or third conversation we had. So it was always from the beginning that she had cheated. He caught her, and he had filed for divorce, but he was still close to the kids. They still had a great relationship. I've heard him on the phone with the kids, you know, just encouraging them, helping the 17-year-old like with homework. The kids really apparently wanted to meet me, and I was fine with that. He would send them money, you know, if they needed something, because he loved the kids as if they were his own. I'm telling you the story as I was told it in 2020. So let's see, around April or May of 2020, he informs me that his ex-wife has moved to Georgia. Apparently, she's staying with her sister in Gwinnett County. So she has moved to Georgia. The two kids are now in Georgia. And so when he tells me all this, I'm like, so what's that supposed to mean? Now, I will say this. He never made it seem as if she wants him back. He never presented that. It was always, no, you know, we're cool for the kids. We're cool for the kids. But he's never presented that she was trying to get him back. I feel like it's fair to her for me to say that. And again, stay with me. It all comes out. But that was the backstory in regards to the ex-wife. That they got married in California, they divorced in California, and then she eventually moved to Georgia, to Gwinnett County, after he had transferred to Georgia for his job. He did tell me that, you know, every now and then he'll get a text message from her. He told me that he, told her when I was pregnant, he felt like she needed to hear that from him instead of hearing it from the kids. And we got into a bit of an argument about that, but honey, in the big scheme of things, that anyway. So we got into an argument about that. I felt like that's none of her business. But that's the overall backstory of her. So remember, because there will be a quiz, but just remember, he met her in California, married her in California, divorced her in California. She moved to Georgia to Gwinnett County after he moved to Georgia.